just like seeing her for the first time.
Shuttled her mom and dad to deal with them. The dolls began to glow with mana. All the fighters stood in front of Yak's barrier and prepared to fight. Beth said that it would be better to finish them quickly, and Junio noticed a dark and blurry figure of a woman above her. Tian frowned, dissatisfied, looking at the dolls, even from the energy. It can be seen that these dolls are different from the ones before. They are at the level of the boss of a difficult dungeon. It is too dangerous to ignore them and move on. It is safer to meet them in battle, although he has a bad feeling about this maybe. He just imagines it, but for some reason it does not look like a simple control type. He told Mayan, Jia, and the others to fight the female doll, and he would take care of the male doll. They should focus all their strength on Theodol and finish it quickly. Ji readied her guns and said that she understood everything. The doll's dad started running and attacking first, and Tian immediately readied his sword and caught fire. At this time, Yi was like in a block of ice. Rubus couldn't move him, but he couldn't get rid of him either. MC watched him and wondered, is this the ability to turn opponents into dolls and control them? Isn't it a bug if it conflicts with Kim Yak's impenetrably? It must be a skill that turns hunters into dolls. But no matter how much he thought it was wrong, Yak's transformation into a doll happened instantly, even after Junio absorbed all the contaminated mana. So before he used mana absorption, Beth had the opportunity to turn them into dolls, but she didn't. Jia at this time began to fight with the doll mother. She fired many shots that did not reach their target due to the barrier. The doll calmly watched the many bullets hit her barrier, and Beth even smiled. Junio frowned, thinking that this was all just a play with them, but why did she reveal herself then? Beth not only led him to the Lost Scout, but also told him the weak points of those who had already become dolls, and after gaining his trust, she immediately showed her true self, which made everything meaning. It was strange. No matter what options he thought of, even someone who liked internal conflicts would not do this. Then he realized it looked like she was forced to fight the doll. Daddy didn't stop striking, but then Tian wrapped his hand in mana threads and struck with this word. He was dissatisfied with such incredible endurance of the doll. He attacked again with a sword enhanced by fire. Thanks to Junio, he can put all his power into the weapon and control it better. It began to burn, even brighter and stronger, and used the skill explosion. However, Ji only had a pistol, so she took out a magazine with mana bullets from her pocket. She prepared a mana pistol for battle. Unfortunately, have to use it in situations like this. At this time, Mun fought with a doll that was covered in mana crystals. Guy sighed that the guild deputy did the rest. This will definitely be enough. She focused and fired a glittering enchanted bullet. This shot was incredibly powerful. A huge flow of mana ate through the doll, leaving it in it. This is an enchanted bullet type bomber. Ji was proud of herself. The doll was badly injured. A hole was burning in her chest. Soon the doll fell to the floor and did not move anymore. Immediately, the burning doll dad fell to the floor. Tian lowered the flaming sword and breathed heavily after the fight. The battle was harder than he expected. But what was surprising is that they only used physical attacks and nothing more. He looked to the side. Only one doll remained. He was worried about mental attacks, but for some reason he, a berserker, managed to withstand them. He said for all the fighters to prepare until he gives any other instructions. They should be careful of mental attacks and stay in place, Beth said sadly. Her mom and dad, all destroyed. Tian ran first to attack her, and Beth hugged the doll tighter. But soon her smile became creepy and wide. She said that it was perfect. Tian quickly ran past and cut off her head with his sword, causing a lot of blood to gush out, and her doll fell to the floor. Variant Ji was proud and asked if everyone saw that they were worried in vain. They did not expect anything from the guild leader. Yurin said what happened. She acted as if something scary would happen, but everything turned out to be so boring. Junio wanted it to end like this, and the bad feeling was wrong. A system panel appeared in front of him. After reading the information, he was shocked. Tian looked at the killed and bloody doll. He felt hard. Even if it is a monster, a child deprived of life is a very unpleasant sight. He was about to leave and tell everyone to rest, but the next moment something happened. He froze and trembled. The same thing happened to the other 4 hunters. It was not because of magic or a psychic attack, but because there was something in the dungeon that they had never encountered before. A strange substance was forming from the remains of the girl. Everyone felt the overwhelming presence of the monster. MC knew that this would happen. As expected, a hidden boss appeared, Thievampire, Elder Elizabeth Ba, on his task B. Tasks. The main goal is to destroy Elizabeth B. As a reward he will receive demonic control shackles. An additional goal is unknown. The reward is also unknown. A girl appeared from the substance. She was surrounded by blood splashes, but she thanked everyone all this time. She was waiting for the people who would destroy mom and dad, not unlidded. They betray her, forced her to live forever with her power, but they were also ungrateful rats who placed her in this useless body. She stretched her arms and back happily, saying that she was finally alive. It must have been too long. She hated them too much, having to spend time in such a weak form. Yurin called Jeji and Moin, telling the two of them not to just stand there but to prepare for battle. She herself also began to increase her man of power. She knows the Thayer Guildmaster is talented, but this is not enough. He definitely cannot cope with such a monster alone. Elizabeth looked at Tian, who prepared his sword to attack, and said that they are very cute rats. Elizabeth mocked them, which greatly the fighters. She began to release a powerful stream of mana from her palms. This is an essence strain. Shirley wants to enjoy something for the first time in a long time. A lot of blood gushed onto the floor. All the fighters scout up blood that flooded the floor. Mind One said that this was nonsense. Urine was shaking. Blood was flowing from her mouth, eyes and ears. She knew that the high-ranking undead were masters of absorption magic, but not at a distance. Seemed not on such a large number of people. She was able to suppress them without any conditions, and without spending time on preparation. How is this possible? What kind of monster is this? However, Tian was able to concentrate, and began to attack. Elizabeth looked in surprise at his fire, which filled a huge space like a whirlwind. However, he listened in shock to Elizabeth's words. Said that he was very strong. Even in this state he could cause her trouble. Ive could use all his strength. The outcome would be different. She grabbed him and the sword and then squeezed the blade, which shattered into many pieces. Elizabeth said that he would never defeat her, and then hit Tian. He coughed up blood and flew far back, hitting the floor hard. He couldn't stand and was shaking. But Junio came up to him and asked him how much percent he thought it was. Tian asked what he was talking about. What percent? In what sense? The protagonist said, berserkers have power, but the body won't be able to withstand it if he's constantly at MC. Heard that Tian applied power depending on the situation. However, he himself is still a beginner in the explosion technique, so he doesn't know much about it. When the MC killed the Arachne last time, he thinks the power was less than half of the maximum, and now it seems like Tian used less than half of the power. He replied, even if that's the case, the strongest sword Junio has ever made broke in his current state. He's not sure if he can display a power he's never used before. However, he can fight to buy some time, but iOS Jian wants to monopolize his ability, right? He extended his hand, saying he knows it's a ridiculous favor, and yet Jian looked at his hand in surprise and thought, isn't this energy mana? Junio said, it seems like it will be permanently connected to him. From now on, the protagonist became serious and looked majestic. A black stream enveloped him. He said that it was better for them to show each other their abilities. He created a demonic armor. That of the stored contaminated mana had been consumed. The system began to search for a suitable weapon in the demon world. Elizabeth watched them in surprise, and soon the creation was completed. A flaming weapon appeared in front of Tian. It was the demonic sword Leviathan. He told Tian to take this sword now. It's his turn. Thebreser, the guild leader, looked at the sword in fascination. He realized that something had changed. The mana was different. If the sword had many abilities, he would have easily taken it, but there seems to be something different about this flaming sword. But then he reached out his hands to the weapon, as it was a sword created by Junio. As soon as he touched the sword, he was blinded by a bright flash of fire. A strong wind blew towards him and Junio himself. Elizabeth also looked at this huge burst of power. She realized Thethys was a sword with contaminated mana. Judging from the energy, she felt it must be a special ability of the fire Elementary said that contaminated mana and flames are quite a good synergy. MC looked at Elizabeth in surprise. She was confident in her strength, and was already preparing to attack the synergy of mana and flames, is good Bhutan. Fortunately not for them, as she uses blood magic. She pointed her hands at them, and from her feet, a stream of blood out onto the stairs and floor, filling the entire area. This is the essence drain skill. When the blood gushed out to Juno's feet, he became worried, since this is a large area skillless. This an absorption and blocking ability, although the absorption power is not as strong as before, it is still a very versatile skill. The rest of the team were already lying on the floor without any strength, Elizabeth said. That their mana distribution and basic metabolism would gradually be paralyzed, everything would melt their bones, muscles, nerves, veins, but all the team members were already unable to move and were breathing heavily, the vampire thought of them as weak toys. She said that after a while the pain would not be so bad. Suddenly, Tien stood in front of her, with a flaming sword and aura. Elizabeth was confused. She thought dissatisfied even after activating Thebeth territory. He can still move fine. No, to be more precise, he can't move fine. His body is not moved by his will and consciousness. It is the ability of the sword. Even the strength he can show thinks that now, it will be much greater than before. She clenched her fist and said, "Okay, now it's fun." Now Shesha's to destroy the dolls. Blood drops flew from Tion's steps. He quickly ran towards Elizabeth to attack. At this times, was gathering all her mana, using blood magic again, and when she raised her hands up to giant hands, made of blood, rose from the floor. This is the skill of handthirst. She pointed them forward. The huge hand quickly approached Tian. He grabbed the sword tightly and swung it, after which a huge stream of flame remained from the blade, cutting off the hand. Now, even Elizabeth was scared. She thought, what kind of power is this? After that she immediately covered herself with another bloody hand, like a shield. This power is at least twice as strong as before. No, even more. Tian continued to swing the sword, and the fiery blade destroying everything in the area. MC was injured, but said that he himself was truly amazed by its ability. Tian used his most powerful attack, hitting straight at the vampire. The room above and below filled with blood. The guildmaster slashed Elizabeth's stomach. She coughed, her face contorted, and Panjunio was surprised that Tian had still suppressed such power, although he probably didn't know himself. Soon Thethi room returned to normal, and a system reported that the main objective had been achieved. The hidden boss, ancient vampire Elizabeth Ba, had been successfully defeated. Now, she was lying on the floor lifeless and bloody. Suddenly, a small box appeared in Juno's hands. He realized that this was an item reward. He hoped that the item was somehow related to recovery or magical activity. The system reported that the materialization of Leviathan had been realized. The sword in Tian's hands gradually began to disappear, recording the demonic sword. Leviathan next time he uses this skill, he will not need a separate search. He can simply materialize it, Junio thought. If there is a random search, then the weapons search standard is completely random. When the sword disappeared from Tian's hands, he did not understand what was happening. He felt very bad, and in pain he was shaking and asked what was going on. MC came, opened, told him not to even try to get up, because even if he did, he would not be able to walk. Maybe he would be fine. Buth was hurt so badly, and the power was at such a level. Junio was surprised that Tian was even conscious. He looked at the hell in which all the fighters were lying unconscious on the floor. The protagonist said that Tian could rest head and not think that anyone's life was in danger. Elizabeth was able to open her eyes. When Junio approached her, she said that she congratulated her brother. The protagonist did not understand why she was in critical condition, but at the same time, a notification about a successful cleansing appeared. He asked how she was connected to this dungeon. Those dolls were controlled by the same infected mana that he felt from her, but at the same time she could not control them. But nevertheless, first of all they tried to protect her. Elizabeth replied that they would definitely try to protect her, because she was a valuable source of power that fed them a long time ago. She fulfilled all their whims. But while she lived alone, she simply killed huge and dangerous monsters. Usually she would not have done this, but one day, she saved rats that almost fell into the water. It was a family of 3. If everything ended like a theus, it would just be a strange story. But that day, a woman came to her and bowed. These rats were strange. They said that they could not just let their savior go, so they asked her to accept their invitation. It was The first times heard such a thing from a person, so she was caught in a beautiful mansion. The woman showed her a ball filled with mana, and the man showed her huge dolls. Elizabeth does not know what was the critical moment, but when she came to her senses, she was no longer their guest, but their family. She taught Rubus to control the dolls with mana threads. It seemed cute, so she laughed, although it was short-lived. She was happy until she realized why these rats accepted her into their family in place of the puppet wrapped in strings. She found herself not understanding anything now. She blamed herself because she gave them a chance to control and betray her. While they cunningly waited, she became infinitely soft and weak, so they imprisoned her in this girl's body, locking away most of her abilities so that she could only provide them with the necessary contaminated mana for protection. MC asked, but from what did they need to protect themselves? Elizabeth answered that she herself was not sure. Although it is strange, her brother always looks around before entering the estate from the window. You can see a magnificent view, an endless desert. Wherever he goes, it will not end. But this is not a real desert, but only a barrier, and a space created to protect the estate. She assured that her mother created this space with her power, all this to protect themselves from the monsters on the other side of the rift. After these words, Junio shuddered. Elizabeth noticed his reaction, saying, judging by this, there is a rift in their world too. She thinks that's how they ended up in her world. Their world went through the same thing. Cracks appeared in the sky. This is a rift, strange portals that act as doors. People with mana awaken. Monsters appeared from the door portals, much more cruel than vampires like her. Junio immediately became even more interested. He sat down next to her and asked, is this true? How did their world cope with a disaster? How many years have passed since the last rift? She was surprised that they also call it a disaster here. Yes, their conclusion was the same. Unfortunately, did not see anything personally after she was imprisoned in that body. Terrible times came for her when she could not move. Elizabeth was more like a doll during this time. Her world fell and the manor was isolated. She was able to move again. Just recently the lock on her box opened. She was surprised. Ed since then disappeared in front of her. As Elizabeth looked at the system panel, there was a hidden task. She must repel uninvited guests who came from another world. The goal of the task is to repel uninvited guests. The reward is liberation from the abandoned world. Mick thought, in shock. The system panel. Is she also a player? Elizabeth understood from his face that he had many questions, but apologized because she could not answer them. Her body began to crumble like a stone statue. She said that her death was also good, but Junio became nervous. This was bad. Her body began to collapse, but at that moment, he remembered the reward. This was a demonic control shackle, can be used once he opened the box with bright mana, and grinned, and soon Elizabeth felt something and opened her eyes. Junio grabbed her by the neck. A bright glow emanated from her body. Gradually the cracks on her body disappeared and shackles appeared on her neck. She asked what he did. The system gave information about the demonic control shackles. This is an item of force confinement. It can be used on defeated monsters in critical condition. He said that this is not a coincidence. He could not use the shackles and leave it for another case, but he has a personal interest. The system reported that after successfully equipping the corresponding monster will come out of critical condition. It lit up brightly. The rules said that the corresponding monster will obey as a familiar to the player who used the item. Junio said that he has seen many players with familiars, but this is the first time he has seen such a thing, so that's familiar as a player.